Let me tell you about a night that changed everything. February 8th, 2017, Columbus, Ohio. It is a Wednesday evening, and like thousands of other college students across America, 21-year-old Reagan Tokes is finishing up her shift at work. She works at a place called Bodega, a bar and restaurant in the Short North neighborhood of Columbus. It is one of those trendy spots where students and young professionals gather. Reagan has been there for a few hours, serving drinks, chatting with regulars, doing what she does. Her shift ends around 10 that night. Nothing unusual about it. Just another Wednesday. She gathers her things, says goodbye to her coworkers, and heads out the back door to her car. And honestly, this is where my heart breaks, because Reagan is doing everything we tell young people to do. She has a job. She is working hard to pay for school. She is responsible. But here is the thing that haunts me about this case. Reagan never makes it home that night. Her family, who live all the way down in Florida, always expect a text from her. Just a simple message. I am home. I am safe. That text never comes. Her father Toby starts calling and calling and calling for 4 straight hours. Her phone rings. No answer. Then around 2 in the morning, the calls stop going through entirely, like the phone has died. The next morning, Reagan does not show up for class. Her roommates check her bedroom. The bed is still made. Her backpack sits exactly where she left it. Something is very, very wrong. Before we go further, I need you to understand who Reagan Tokes really was, because she was not just another statistic. She was a real person with dreams and plans and people who loved her. Reagan was born on March 13th, 1995 in Edgewood, Kentucky. She grew up in Maumee, Ohio with her parents Toby and Lisa, and her younger sister Mackenzie. And from everything I have read, from every interview with people who knew her, one thing becomes crystal clear. Reagan was special. She graduated from Anthony Wayne High School with a 4.5 GPA. She played varsity lacrosse and tennis. She went on mission trips with her church. But you know what really gets me? It is the little things people remember about her. Her mom, Lisa, talks about how Reagan would make them stop the car so she could move bugs off the road. She could not stand to see anything suffer. Her friends describe her as someone who always noticed the people standing alone at parties. The ones who looked like they needed a friend. That is who Reagan was. Now here is the part that makes this whole thing even more heartbreaking. Reagan had wanted to go to Ohio State University her entire life. Her dad, Toby, took her to a football game there when she was just a little girl. And from that moment on, she was hooked. She only applied to one school, just Ohio State. That is how sure she was. And she got in. By February of 2017, Reagan is a senior studying psychology. She has big plans. Graduate in May. Move to Cleveland. Work at the Cleveland Clinic. Eventually open her own practice. She is 21 years old and her whole life is ahead of her. Except it is not. The morning of February 9th, a man is driving past Scioto Grove Metro Park in Grove City, just outside Columbus. He sees something in a field near the park entrance. At first, he probably thinks it is a mannequin, or maybe he does not want to believe what he is seeing. He calls 911.
Hello, 911. Yeah, I think there's a body out here. I don't know if this is a fake or what. Please send somebody. Hurry. This is really freaking awful. Please hurry, send somebody. Okay, stay right there, sir.
When police arrive, they confirm what nobody wants to be true. It is a young woman. She is lying in the snow. She is naked. She has been shot twice in the head. There is no ID, no phone, no clothes anywhere nearby, just a small tattoo and a necklace. And for several hours, she is simply an unidentified victim. Meanwhile, back in Columbus, Reagan's roommates are filing a missing person report. Her manager at Bodega is trying to help piece together what happened. Then, police ask the roommates a question. Did Reagan have a small circle-shaped tattoo? And in that moment, everyone knows. The body in the park is Reagan Tokes. Here is where the investigation really picks up speed. Detectives locate Reagan's car pretty quickly using license plate readers. It is parked on a residential street in Columbus, not far from the park. And right away, they can tell someone tried to burn it. There are cigarette burn marks all over it. And inside, the car reeks of gasoline. But here is the thing that breaks the case wide open. The arson attempt failed, which means all the evidence inside is still intact. Investigators find cigarette butts, a gas can, and multiple ATM receipts. They send everything to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation for testing. Now, here is something I find fascinating about this case. The crime lab essentially shuts down everything else to prioritize Reagan's case. They fast-track the DNA testing, and within 48 hours, they get results. The DNA from those cigarette butts matches someone already in the system, 29-year-old Brian Lee Golsby. And when detectives pull his file, they realize something chilling. This man should never have been on the streets. Let me tell you about Brian Golsby. This is hard to talk about, but it is crucial to understanding how this tragedy happened. Golsby has been committing crimes since he was a child. As a teenager, he sexually assaulted 5-year-old girls and 6-year-old boys. In 2011, he kidnapped a pregnant woman who was 8 months along with her 2-year-old son. He held them at knife point. He sexually assaulted her in front of her child. He forced her to drive to ATMs. He made her go back to her own home where he attacked her again. Then he forced her to shower and brush her teeth to destroy DNA evidence. The case went to court. He was charged with armed robbery, rape, and kidnapping, but the victim was so traumatized she could not testify. So Golsby made a deal. He pled guilty to robbery and attempted rape. He got 6 years in prison. Now here is the part that makes me angry. While in prison, Golsby violated institutional rules more than 50 times. Fights, theft, you name it. But Ohio law at the time said that once you serve your sentence, you get released. Period. So, in 2016, they let him out. A few months early, actually, they put him in a transitional housing program. They gave him an ankle monitor. They assigned him a probation officer. And then nobody actually monitored him. The ankle monitor collected data, but that data went to a private company, not directly to police. And apparently, nobody was checking it. There was no curfew on his ankle monitor. His probation officer was not keeping tabs on him. And in the weeks before Reagan's murder, Brian Golsby committed at least 6 armed robberies. The ankle monitor recorded every single one. Nobody noticed. Once Golsby is arrested, investigators start piecing together what actually happened that night, and the timeline they build is absolutely chilling. 9:45 in the evening, Reagan walks out of Bodega after her shift. She heads to her car, which, like most employees, she parks on a poorly lit street behind the restaurant. Brian Golsby is waiting. He forces his way into her car at gunpoint. He makes her drive. 9:58. Security cameras at a Chase bank show Reagan at the ATM. She tries to withdraw $500. The transaction is declined. 10 minutes later, cameras at a Huntington bank show her trying again. Declined. Somewhere between 10:18 and 10:30, Golsby forces Reagan to park in a dark alley. That is where he sexually assaults her. Then, he makes her drive back to the first bank. This time, she successfully withdraws $60. Around 11:12, surveillance footage from a gas station shows them sitting in the car. And this is the part that kills me. During all of this, Reagan is texting with her family, or trying to. Her sister messages her. Her dad calls repeatedly. She cannot answer. Sometime between midnight and 1 in the morning, Golsby directs Reagan to drive to Scioto Grove Metro Park. There, he forces her to take off all her clothes. He makes her walk out into a snowy field. And according to his own later confession, Reagan is crying. She is begging for her life. She keeps saying, "I just want to live. I just want to live." Brian Golsby shoots her twice in the head, execution style. On February 11th, just 2 days after Reagan's body is found, a SWAT team storms the halfway house where Golsby is staying. They arrest him at 4 in the morning.
You have a handcuff.
Oh, yeah.
You get one? Yeah. Got on you real quick. Talk about anything if you ask questions, all that stuff. Just tell them Nick's gonna talk to him, and that's all. That's the only answer to give them. Yep. Works for me.
He is brought in for interrogation, and this is where it gets interesting. At first, Golsby admits he was in Reagan's car. He admits he made her go to ATMs, but he claims he did not hurt her. According to his first story, he just took the money and left her standing naked in the park. She was alive when he drove away in her car. Then detectives show him the DNA evidence. His story changes. Now he admits he was there when Reagan was shot, but he invents this whole narrative about a man named TJ. According to Golsby, TJ is the one who actually pulled the trigger. TJ forced him to rape Reagan. TJ threatened his kids if he did not go along with it.
He gets behind me. At first I heard click, nothing happened, so I'm taking the gun that he gave me to save me. And it goes, pow! She falls. She's laying on the ground. I'm looking on the car. And then now she's laying, pow!
Investigators look into TJ. TJ does not exist. But here is what seals Golsby's fate. While he is sitting in jail waiting for trial, he makes 2 phone calls, one to his girlfriend, one to a friend, and on both calls, he confesses, "I did it." He says, "I killed that girl for the money." The impact of Reagan's death ripples through Columbus like a shockwave. Ohio State University, which has around 60,000 students, goes into mourning. Students are terrified. Many are afraid to walk to their cars alone. Reagan's funeral is held on February 14th, 2017, Valentine's Day, at the Maumee United Methodist Church where she grew up. The church is packed. There are people who knew her their whole lives. There are people who never met her but feel connected to her story. Her family is devastated, but here is something that really touches me. Reagan's ex-boyfriend, Jake, who had broken up with her mutually just a few months earlier so they could both focus on school, sets up a fundraiser in her memory. He wants to create a scholarship at Ohio State in Reagan's name. The fundraiser raises almost $100,000. In March of 2018, Brian Golsby goes on trial. The evidence against him is overwhelming. DNA from the cigarettes in Reagan's car, DNA from the rape kit, surveillance footage from every ATM, ankle monitor data placing him at every location, his own jailhouse confessions. The defense does not really try to argue innocence. How could they? Instead, they focus on trying to save his life, trying to convince the jury not to give him the death penalty. They talk about his troubled childhood, his history of abuse, his addiction issues, and then, on what would have been Reagan's 23rd birthday, March 13th, 2018, the jury delivers its verdict. Guilty on all 9 counts: aggravated murder, kidnapping, rape, aggravated robbery, tampering with evidence. But when it comes time to decide between life in prison and the death penalty, the jury is split. 8 vote for death, 4 vote for life. They cannot reach a unanimous decision, so Brian Golsby gets 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 66 years for the robberies he committed in the weeks before Reagan's murder. He will die in prison 3 months after Reagan's murder, May of 2017. Ohio State University holds its graduation ceremony, and there is one name that everyone is waiting to hear: Reagan Tokes. Her family walks onto the stage. Her father, Toby, her mother, Lisa, her sister, Mackenzie. They accept Reagan's diploma on her behalf. The entire auditorium stands. The applause goes on and on. In a statement, the family says that Reagan dreamed of being a Buckeye since she was a little girl. And even though she is not here to walk across that stage herself, her dream came true. She graduated from Ohio State University. Now here is where this story takes a turn that I think is absolutely crucial to understand. Because yes, Brian Golsby is a monster. Yes, he made the choice to kill Reagan. But here is the question that haunts me, and that haunted Reagan's family. How was he even on the streets? This man had a long history of violent sexual crimes. He was classified as a high-risk sex offender. Level 3, he was wearing an ankle monitor, and yet in the weeks before Reagan's murder, he committed at least 6 armed robberies. The ankle monitor recorded every single one. Nobody was watching. The data from his ankle monitor went to a private company, not to police, and apparently nobody at that company was checking it. Or if they were checking it, they were not reporting it. His probation officer was not monitoring him properly. The halfway house where he was staying was not keeping tabs on him. There was no curfew attached to his ankle monitor. And here is the kicker. While Golsby was in prison serving his previous sentence, he violated institutional rules 52 times. Under Ohio law at the time, that did not matter. He served his definite sentence, so they had to release him, even though everyone knew he was dangerous. Reagan's parents, Toby and Lisa, looked at all of this and made a decision. They were going to change the system. In 2019, the Ohio legislature passed Senate Bill 201. It is officially called the Reagan Tokes Law, and it fundamentally changes how Ohio handles criminal sentencing. Here is how it works. For first and second-degree felonies, judges now must impose both a minimum and a maximum sentence. The maximum is always 50% more than the minimum, so if someone gets a 4-year minimum, their maximum is 6 years. The law says that offenders should be released at the end of their minimum sentence. But here is the key change. If someone repeatedly breaks prison rules, commits violence, or shows they are still a threat, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction can now extend their sentence up to that maximum. The goal is simple. Keep dangerous people locked up if they are demonstrating through their behavior that they are not ready to rejoin society. The law was challenged almost immediately. Some judges refused to follow it. Defense attorneys argued it violated constitutional rights. But in 2023, the Ohio Supreme Court upheld the Reagan Tokes law in a 5-2 decision. It is constitutional. It is here to stay. And according to recent data, more than 14,500 people have been sentenced under this law. Today, if you visit Scioto Grove Metro Park, you will find something called the Tranquility Garden. It is a memorial space created in Reagan's honor. There is a water feature representing her astrological sign. The color blue, her favorite, is everywhere. 5 buckeye trees were planted, symbolizing her time at Ohio State. The family hoped this place would become somewhere peaceful, not a reminder of horror, but a place to remember the bright, compassionate young woman Reagan was. The Reagan Delaney Tokes Memorial Foundation provides scholarships every year to 2 Ohio State students, covering their tuition and housing. Self-defense classes have been organized across the region in her memory, and the Reagan Tokes law continues to protect Ohio communities by ensuring that violent offenders cannot simply game the system. But here is what gets me. None of this brings Reagan back. Her mother Lisa said something that stuck with me. She said that regardless of verdicts and laws and memorials, none of it erases the night of terror that Reagan endured. None of it brings back their daughter. I want to end this story by telling you something Reagan's ex-boyfriend Jake shared. He talks about their first date. They went apple picking. Reagan spotted the most perfect apple at the very top of a tree. She had to have it. So Jake told her to climb up on his shoulders. And before he realized what was happening, Reagan grabbed that apple and shoved it in his mouth, making him take a huge bite. Later, she told him she had been searching for the biggest, reddest, most perfect apple she could find. Not for herself. For him, that is who Reagan Tokes was. She was the person who thought about others first, who picked up bugs from the road so they would not get stepped on, who noticed the lonely kids at parties and made them feel welcome. She was 21 years old, months away from graduation. With her whole life stretching out before her, she wanted to help people, to make a difference, and in a way she never could have imagined. She did. Because of Reagan, Ohio's criminal justice system changed. Because of her family's tireless advocacy, dangerous offenders can no longer slip through the cracks the way Brian Golsby did. Her legacy is saving lives. Brian Golsby sits in the Ohio State Penitentiary, a maximum security prison. He will never walk free again. Reagan's family continues their advocacy work, speaking out about criminal justice reform and victims' rights. And every year on March 13th, Reagan's birthday, people across Ohio pause to remember a bright young woman whose life was cut tragically short. Her mother Lisa said something that I think captures everything. In the end, she said, love always wins, and maybe that is the truth we need to hold on to. Brian Golsby took Reagan's life, but he could not take her impact. He could not erase the love people felt for her, or the changes her family fought for in her name. That love, that legacy, that determination to make sure her death meant something. That is what endures. Rest in peace. Reagan Tokes, March 13th, 1995 to February 9th, 2017. Gone far too soon, but never forgotten.